Hey guys, it's Goosebumps Completionist, and today I'm bringing you a book review from Most Wanted, and it's book number 9. Here comes the Shaggedy. I didn't have high expectations for this book going into it, and even my mixed opinions about the very end. I really enjoyed this urban legend swamp monster story. This really creeped me out. Very Cabin in the Woods-esque. It gets under my skin in some points. And I think a lot of the visualization with, there's gore in this book. I mean, it just goes there. And it works so well with a slow pace. Very rarely will I say a slow pace justifies a Goosebumps book, because sometimes with the slow pace it kills the steam of the book. But this book keeps you on the edge the entire time. I have to say, even with that ending, I don't know how I feel about it. I enjoyed a good amount of this book, and I would recommend it off the bat before we get into the plot and the overall review. If you like urban legend stories, especially like Ghost Camp, you like You Can't Scare Me, that type of vibe of a story where there's urban legends involved, I think you would enjoy this. At least the premise of it. Give this a shot. If you've already read it and you may not like it, or you may have liked it, that's fine too, but at least give this a try at least once. Okay. So let's get into the plot without giving too much away. There's a lot of stuff going on in this book, and I'm probably going to skip over a good amount of the overview of the plot, because I'll be here forever talking about this, because there's so many different layers in this book. So I'll try to keep it concentric and brief, but as informative as possible. So the book begins with a narration of R.L. Stine. He points the reader to a poster of a creature called the Shaggedy, and that segues into the story. Here comes the Shaggedy. Now, the Shaggedy is this urban legend of a swamp monster in Florida. It's kind of like the real-life skunk ape in Florida. If you've ever heard of the skunk ape, that's an urban legend that goes around in Florida. Kind of plays on this a little bit. But anywho, he says, hey, look, there's this urban legend called the Shaggedy, and let's tell a story. So the first chapter kind of starts with two characters that aren't anywhere throughout the book except in this first chapter. It's kind of like an opening to a old 50s or 60s horror movie where there's two teenagers on Lover's Lane. They're alone and stranded, and something creepy or scary happens to them. And that's exactly what happens. Basically, this creature comes out of the swamp. These two teenagers are by themselves, and presumably they die or get eaten by this creature. And that first chapter really kind of sets the mood for this urban legend of the Shaggedy, as we'll see throughout this book. So then the following chapter starts the story of Kelly and Sean. And this is all told in RL's perspective. None of this is being told their perspective. Like I said, this is kind of a tale told from R.L. Stine's point of view. Kelly and Sean are these two kids from New York City. They are city kids. They do not know anything about the country. They're very inexperienced in those things. They've never been fishing. They've never seen a swamp in person. They're those kind of kids. Their father is a writer and a researcher and a doctor. And he has these aspirations to move to this swamp in Florida to study it, learn everything he can about it, and write a book. And that's going to be his passion project. That's going to be the work that defines his career. So he decides to take his kids, because he's divorced from his ex-wife, and presumably he has main custody. They move to this desolate swamp in Florida where there's a creepy backstory, and there's an urban legend about this swamp creature. And it's kind of propelled by Kelly to Sean, because Kelly is the older sibling and lets Sean watch creepy movies. There's like a nod to a swamp monster movie that Sean really liked, and there's a nod to movies that deal with killer anacondas and stuff that Sean watches before moving here. So Sean is already creeped out that he has to move to a swamp. He's deathly afraid of the swamp. But Kelly, she's not afraid of the swamp per se. She's more afraid of losing her friends and becoming irrelevant to her old life back in New York City. And they'll play a huge role in this book, as you'll come to find out. There's a big reveal about 2/3 the way into this book, and you think that that will lose the steam, but it gets kind of better from there. But anyway, anywho, before I got on that tangent, Kelly and Sean have to move to this small town, and they live in the swamp basically with a bunch of people that don't have cell phones. There's no internet. Most people don't have phones, internet, but their house does. And they get these phones so they can communicate with their dad because there's really nothing else to do out there. And it comes to their first day of school, and they see the teachers and the students crowding around this footprint in the mud in front of the school. And this footprint may or may not be from rabbits, or may not be from this creature called the Shaggedy. And Kelly and Sean, to put it in perspective, they go to this small school that's so small that all grades are in one classroom together. And Kelly and Sean meet this kid named Zeke and his twin brother Decker. Zeke and Decker claim that they have seen the Shaggedy, they have seen it in person twice, and they know it's real. But all the teachers and the adults say it's just folklore and urban legend. Don't believe in it. There's no real tangibility to it. And as the book goes on, it starts giving you twists and turns. Maybe the Shaggedy will pop up here. Maybe it'll pop up there. But wow. Some of these scenes, I'm not going to give away most of the plot because there's so much to talk about in the middle of this book. I don't want to spoil it because, like I said, there's a big reveal 2/3 the way through the book. But there's some really good scenes where the kids, they go on the river for the first time. Very scary stuff. Dealing with one of the kids falling in the water. One night it's raining and they have to go to this cabin, and they see this cabin hermit by the name of Saul, I believe, and they have to go into his cabin. That cabin scene is petrifying. Very cabin in the woods feeling. Honestly, scares me to death. Not to mention the scenes with the notes being left behind by people saying, "Here comes the Shaggedy's coming for you." And they're it's targeting Sean mostly. Like, there's a swamp water poured into his locker. All of his stuff's been ruined. There was somebody outside of Sean's room one night saying Sean's name in a creepy way when he's about to go to bed. Kelly's room gets torn up and there's red marks everywhere and signs everywhere. But come to find out, you think at one point that this guy Saul might be behind it, but it's revealed that there's somebody that you would never pretty much guess would be behind it originally, but there was a reveal about that, and you learn the reasons why they were doing this. But then the story doesn't end there. The story keeps going, and they say, "Oh, well, there's context that, wait, the Shaggedy still could be real." So beforehand, before all this big revelation, Kelly learns this tool from her another interaction with this guy Saul. Saul tells her that she needs to get a black piece of paper, take a dead animal, and drip its blood 50 times and hold it over the swamp, the hole in the swamp where this creature lives, and chant 10 times, "Here comes the Shaggedy." And by doing that, it will summon the Shaggedy, and the Shaggedy will do whatever you want it to. And she doesn't think anything of it because she doesn't really believe in it. But later on in the book, she pretty much puts herself in a pickle with this big situation that happens. And Zeke and Decker get really mad at her, and they push her into this swamp hole with her brother, and she gets leeches all over her legs. And these kids on Instagram take pictures of it and call her Leech Girl, and she wants a little bit of revenge on these two. So what she does is she wants to summon the Shaggedy and bother Zeke and Decker. Well, what happens is she summons a creature that turns out not to be the Shaggedy, and this creature is going around town destroying everyone's houses, their cars. This creature's the size of the Hulk. And she panics because now she doesn't know what to do. She goes with Saul back to the monster hole to try to summon the Shaggedy one more time using the correct amount of drops, because the first time it was revealed that she didn't put the right amount of drops on the paper. And when she summons the Shaggedy, this is where the story just kind of goes off the wall. And you will not, I mean, I guess I kind of saw it coming because this character, or these characters, I guess, were kind of given this weird vibe throughout the whole book. And what happens blows my mind, and I don't know why it happened this way, but I guess it worked. I don't know if I like it or not, but it happened. So it's revealed that, hey, we're the Shaggedy. We'll do what you tell us because you summoned us. We're monsters. We have to do what you say. So the Shaggedy basically has a big old kaiju fight. It's like a mini kaiju fight. I get like Godzilla versus King Ghidorah vibes from this. And the Shaggedy ends up defeating the other beast that was summoned by accident. And the beast falls into the swamp. And then then another big twist comes out of nowhere, dealing with Saul. And basically Saul gets dealt with. And then the Shaggedy has to get dealt with. So the town is safe overall. And then the book ends on a light-hearted note for a Goosebumps story. But the outro doesn't fade back to R.L. Stine narrating the book or anything. It just fades out with the story. So the strengths on this book, like I said, I couldn't get to all the very in-depth parts of this story. But I will say the suspense in this book rocks. The characterization in this book is awesome. You'll get really good characterization with Kelly and Sean. Even with the dad. The dad plays a really predominant role in this book. Fantastic. The cabin scene, when you'll see the skulls, that is creepy. That just gets to me every time I think about it. The scene dealing with Kelly's interaction with Saul the second time, really creepy. I mean, there's just so many good parts of this book that I can point out, but if you read this book, you'll see what I'm talking about. But there's a couple of negatives. There's like one or two. I wouldn't say they kill the book for me or they completely ruin the book, because I do think this book is within, if not on an earshot of being a 4.5 or higher. But that villain or the Shaggedy reveal near the end of the book had me flabbergasted. I did not see that coming. And still don't know if it's a good or bad thing that it was revealed to be who it was. But I kind of laughed, and I thought it was so absurd that I guess it kind of took away with what the story was heading towards, still to the end. So I think it could be a negative, and that's kind of how I view it. You know, the big reveal around chapter 19, 20, around 2/3 of the way through the book, that really surprised me too. That's another strength there. You'll see that coming, and that'll really touch your heart when that first reveal comes. But this second reveal just made me laugh. And like I said, I still don't know how I feel about it. And then the other negative I have with this book is the Saul situation. I kind of wish what Saul's motivations were being in the swamp to begin with. I kind of wish that was pretty much laid out throughout the whole book. I think that would have been a way more funny and entertaining thing just to have throughout the book. But I think that since it was revealed so late in the book, I didn't know how it would really work. So I decided that I would deduct 0.3 off for each one of those issues I had, and I gave this a book a 4.4 out of 5, deducting 0.6 off. It's an above average book. It's a really fun book. I think most people would really enjoy this. If you like urban legend reads, if you like creepy, slow burner type of stories, read this. I think you would really enjoy it. So yeah, that's my review for Here Comes the Shaggedy. Let me know in the comment section. Did you love it or hate it? Let me know, and I'll see you next time.